Guys, welcome back to the second part of my cleaning up your computer with disk cleanup in Windows 10. Thanks for coming back. If you watched the last video, then you know at the end of it, I talked about how in this video, I would automate the whole process. And remember what we did was we basically created this batch file here. I'll open it up again. That just has this really simple command to tell Windows to run the clean manager at Sage Run 1. So that was all the settings that we had picked once before. And then when you want to run it, you just simply click on it and it'll run your disk cleanup utility. Cool. But that seems to be kind of a pain because now you've got this thing where it's like you got to remember to click on it, and what if you forget? And then you go a couple weeks or even a couple months, and then all this stuff starts to accumulate. There's lots and lots of junk that files that like show up on your computer after a long time of like browsing the internet and downloads and deleting stuff, et cetera, et cetera. So wouldn't it be nice if Windows could automate that for you? Well, this is how you're going to do that, and now you can just set it and forget it. So we're going to hit the start button on the lower left or the start key on your keyboard, and we're going to type in task scheduler, task scheduler. And right there, it should look like a little clock. Just go ahead and click on that, open it on up. Mine's going to take a minute because I'm in sandbox mode, but there we go. And I will make this just a little bit bigger so you can see what's going on here. All right, so over here on the left-hand side, we've got this Task Scheduler Library folder. Just go ahead and click on that so it's highlighted. You can click on this arrow to open up everything that's below it. You might have more things than me. My Windows version right now is pretty bare bones because, again, it's the sandbox mode, but you get the idea. You should have a whole bunch of other things, and all these different folders that will appear will have different tasks that Windows has to do. Windows has a whole bunch of different automatic things that it automates on its own throughout the day that you don't even realize that it's doing. And you can take a look at those if you want to, but it's not really super important for this particular video. We're just going to go ahead and stay right here in the Task Scheduler library. Now over here on the right-hand side, you should see a thing that says Actions. And if not, you can find it in the view here, right there, okay, where it says Show All These Panes. But anyways, over here on the right-hand side, you should see Actions. And we're going to select Create a Task. Not create a basic task, but create a task, all right? Now it should bring up a pop-up that says Create Task. So we're going to name this task. Now I'm going to name this one pretty specifically so that I know exactly what it's going to be doing. I'm going to call it Clean Computer. All right. And for the description, we can just say run disk cleanup with Sage set 1. You can put in whatever you want as a description. You can make it whatever name you want, but I'm going to put it at very specific so that if I ever come back here, I can remember that I did make a clean computer task. Now down here at the bottom it says run only when user is logged on. That's fine. And then I want to check this box, run with the highest privileges. All right. Once I've done that, I'm going to hit up here at the top, triggers. Don't hit OK yet because we're not done yet. Up here at the top, you'll notice there's a bunch of tabs actually. We're going to visit each one of these. We're going to go to triggers now. In triggers, it should be empty. Down here in the lower left, we're going to hit new. And with this new trigger that we're going to be, let's go new. Come on. There we go. So with this new trigger, what we're going to do is tell it how often we want this task to run. So I want this one to run daily, actually. I'm going to make sure it says every 1 day. I'm going to start it today on the 12th. And I'm going to change this to, I think I want it to run at a time when I'm not really going to be using it too much. So I know about 9 o'clock is when I'll be heading to bed most likely because I'm old. I'm going to change that to 9:30 and 00 right there. So every day at 9:30, it's going to run this task. All the rest of these things I can leave blank. You can read them if you want to. They're pretty self-explanatory, but I always leave them blank anyways, other than this enable down here. So daily, start today, and 9:30 p.m. every day. Now I'm going to hit OK on this one. And then I should see that new trigger showing up right there in that spot. Now you can add as many triggers as you want, but I'm just going to leave it right here. Once a day is fine for me. Now actions, this is where we're going to tell it what exactly it's going to do. So in the lower left, hit new. And over here, we're going to say start a program. You've got a couple different things that are not really used too much anymore. We're going to just select start a program. That's typically what we end up doing here. And then for which program we're going to run, we're going to hit browse. And I saved my clean computer batch file that we made in the last video up here on the desktop. So that's where I'm going to go. But if you saved yours someplace else, or better yet, you want to save it someplace else, like maybe in your My Documents folder, I recommend there is a good spot. It's like if you go to documents, maybe make a folder that says miscellaneous programs or something like that. You can place it in there. I'm going to leave mine on the desktop though. It just keeps it easier there for me. But again, wherever you ended up putting this clean computer batch file, that's where you're going to navigate to. So I'm going to say clean computer. I'm going to highlight that and select open. And it should populate right there with the exact location of where it's at and cleancomputer.bat. For the rest of these things, I'm not going to fill in anything. I don't need to, but we'll revisit this in a future video about what these, specifically this one, add arguments, what those do. And I'm going to say OK, and then it should populate right there. Now I'm going to go to conditions, the conditions tab at the top. Right, I'm going to ignore this one, start the task if the computer's been idle for, but you might want to. Like I said, at 9:30, I'm pretty much ready for bed, so my computer's just chilling. But if you know that you'll be working on it at some point, you might want to select this and say start the task only if the computer is idle for, and then set a certain amount of time. So what this means is that this won't run until your computer has been just sitting there for 10 minutes or more, and then it'll run it if it is 9:30. If it comes on 9:30 and you're using the computer, it won't run this until your computer is no longer being used. All right, but I'm going to leave this one unchecked. All right, down here, AC power. If you're running a laptop, you're going to want to obviously make sure that these are checked here. This one here, stop at the computer switches to battery power. You can leave this one checked as well. If it's a laptop, you might not want this to run while your computer is running on battery because you're going to be using whatever battery you need to for whatever work you're doing. So you might not want to waste it on this program. Not that this takes up a lot of battery juice, but just saying. But you can either check or uncheck these. It doesn't really matter either way. It's really up to you and what your computer usage is like. And then finally for settings, I'm going to use all of these things or make sure that whatever's checked and unchecked, I'm going to leave them as that. And you can make sure that, and you can have the same thing. It doesn't really make a difference too much on these. Like for instance, this one, run task as soon as possible after a scheduled start is missed. It does this automatically, honestly. But if you want to double check it, like double make sure, go ahead and check it. But it really doesn't matter. If you, for instance, I'm running a laptop, and if I had this set up to run at a certain time, but my laptop is in sleep mode, as soon as I turn on my laptop and plug it in, it'll run this task. So it's not really a big deal. Once we've gone through all these things, just go ahead and hit OK. And boom, you have yourself a new task right there. That's automatic. Now, remember that one checkbox where it said run on demand or allow tasks to run on demand? What that means is that I can right click it on here and I can click run and it'll run it for me. And there we go, testing our task. That's it. Now, if you want to be sure that it actually is working, wait around until 9:30 or whatever time you set and see that it turns on. And if you want to, if you're not sure, you can always change the time by going down here to, remember, triggers. You can always edit this if you want to, or you can even add a new trigger to run at like 2 minutes from now, and then wait to see if it runs. And then if you don't want it, like, you can obviously, I'll show you real quick. If you just go to properties, you can edit all these things. So going back to triggers, you can always make a new trigger. And let's say you want to actually make sure that this is really working. Go ahead and select daily, or actually we can just go one time. And then we can set it for, I don't know, 1 minute in the future and hit OK. And then it'll do all that same stuff in 1 minute automatically on its own. Now, I'm not going to sit around and wait for that to happen because, it could, like, I just don't want to run out the video. But that's the idea, is if you want to test it and make sure, yeah, you can do that for sure. All right, you may notice also it says 7:39. I was in the middle of running it when I changed it to 7:39, so it's probably like, yeah, we already ran. I don't know what you're doing over here. So in any event, you can test it out if you want like that, or just leave it as it is. It'll run regardless. And there you go. Now you've automated cleaning up your computer all on your own without having to worry about remembering to click this little batch file that you made over there. In future videos, I'm going to show you even more that you can do with this batch file and with this automatic task scheduler and some other commands that we can throw in there to make your computer even more clean and private. All right, well, thanks for sticking around and hope this was useful, and I'll see you in the next video.